Hi everyone, welcome to another video. If you go by the definition, a company is a legal entity managed by a group of people. The sole objective of a company is to make profits. But in the process of making profits, these companies have totally changed our lives. Behind every cultural shift in India, there is a company. At every stage of India's growth, there are companies which played a crucial role. Some of them are age-old companies, some of them are young startups, some of them are Indian companies, some of them are foreign. But all of them had a positive impact on our lives, and this is my attempt to appreciate these companies. In this video, I will cover 4 areas where companies were the trendsetters and played a major role in cultural shift in India. So without any delay, let's start our episode on the companies that changed India forever. Up until 1942, all the cars in India were to be imported from foreign countries because the market was not big as majority of the population was living below poverty line. But 2 companies totally changed the way this industry operates. In 1942, Hindustan Motors was launched by B.N. Birla in partnership with British car maker Morris Motors. In 1944, another company called Premier was launched by Mumbai-based Walchand Hirchandani Group. Both the companies were best in their product and were competing for market share. At the core, these are the Indian companies trying to build a car for Indians. Hindustan Motors was known for its famous Ambassador. It was a darling of car lovers. The Ambassador was considered as a definitive Indian car and passionately called the King of Indian roads. Another model was Contessa. When launched, it was one of the few luxury cars to be manufactured in India. Whereas Premier was known for its model Padmini. Premier Padmini had its own fan base and many celebrities like Rajnikant, Mammootty, Amir Khan had Premier Padmini, due to which this car enjoyed a celebrity status. Till 1970, these 2 companies ruled the 4-wheeler market. Premier and Hindustan Motors played a major role in creating the car culture among Indians. But car was still a dream for middle class. Car was still a luxury. This myth will be broken by another company called Maruti. It entered into market with its model Maruti 800, almost with no expectations. It was released in 1983. Critics expected the company to sell fewer than 40,000 units a year. But they were surprised when Maruti announced that it has received bookings of 125,000 units for the first year, though it could only produce 1 lakh units. The success of Maruti 800 can be understood from the fact that the size of Indian passenger vehicles market grew from 40,000 units in 1983 to 150,000 units in 1987. Maruti 800 remained the best-selling car in India until 2004. Post-liberalization in 1991, Maruti entered into partnership with Japanese car maker Suzuki to form Maruti Suzuki. Over the years, Maruti Suzuki made cars specifically for middle class, and today it is the market leader with 51% market share in passenger vehicle segment. But Maruti Suzuki will be remembered forever for driving the car culture among the middle class by making them affordable. Premier and Hindustan Motors have their own place. Aviation in India started in 1932 with the introduction of Tata Air Services. The airline was founded by J.R.D. Tata, which started as an air mail carrier within India after winning a contract with Imperial Airways. The airline flew its first flight in October 1932, flying from Karachi to Mumbai. The airline progressed from being a small freight airline to a commercial passenger airline. By 1938, the airline was renamed as Tata Airlines and flying domestic flights to a number of destinations. J.R.D. Tata himself was heavily involved in the airline. He even flew the airline's inaugural flight in 1932 and was the first licensed pilot in India. In 1947, following the independence, Tata Airlines was renamed as Air India and government took control of the airline. Air India began flying its first international flight in the next year, flying from Mumbai to London in Lockheed Constellation. By 1950, India was home to a number of smaller airlines operating in different parts of the country. Some notable airlines were Deccan Airways based in Hyderabad and Kalinga Airlines based in Kolkata. But Air India remained as the national carrier, flying in multiple domestic and international routes. In between, Air India struggled for survival and finally was reacquired by Tata's in 2021. Air India is the symbol of J.R.D. Tata's passion, and for the first time it created a culture of air travel among Indians. The real change in aviation came in 2000s. It marked the beginning of India's aviation boom. Full-service carriers such as Air India and Jet Airways were challenged by a group of low-cost airlines. Low-cost airlines drastically reduced the fares, allowing million more to fly and challenging the larger airlines. But the company that started this trend was Air Deccan, started by Captain G.R. Gopinath. For the first time, he managed the economics of the air travel to make them affordable for the middle class. And today, the major low-cost carriers follow this trend. Sadly, Air Deccan did not survive. It merged with Kingfisher Airlines in 2008 and we know what happened after that. Some notable examples of low-cost airlines are Indigo, SpiceJet, GoAir and AirAsia. These airlines now occupy over 70% of the domestic market and continue growing. This expansion of airlines and the low fares has propelled India into a third largest aviation market, and India will need thousands of new aircrafts in the coming decades. In the post-independent India, the dream of every young man was to have a two-wheeler. Two-wheeler was a symbol of pride. This dream will be fulfilled with the entry of Royal Enfield. Bullet 350cc was the first two-wheeler in circulation in India. Initially, it was available only to military. Back then, owning a two-wheeler was a status symbol, though they were not the preferred mode of transport. This changed in 70s when the market opened up for new brands like SD and Rajdoot. Youngsters zoomed around on those noisy machines, leaving a cloud of dust and smoke in their wake. The entry of Chetak scooter, Bajaj's debut product, was the beginning of scooter story in India. It kicked a craze around the country and even had a waiting period for purchase at one point of time. The price of scooter was as high as its demand. Despite this craze and obsession, the status symbol tag of two-wheelers did not wear off. The 80s saw India's two-wheeler market grow by forging partnership with many foreign companies like Honda, Suzuki and Yamaha. Hero-Honda partnership brought in a groundbreaking change with a number of bikes that offered safer rides with better mileage. Hero-Honda Splendor became the landmark product that attracted the attention of the nation's youth. The Splendor opened the floodgates for a range of modern bikes that offered safety, comfort at a great fuel efficiency. Bajaj, which was sitting comfortably on the glory of its successful scooters, caught itself napping while the market changed. Bajaj returned to the market in 2001 with Pulsar, which featured a stylish design and powerful performance that was unheard in the Indian market. With the fuel efficiency of a normal two-wheeler, it touched the racing pulse of every college goer. While the bike industry grew with cheaper and fuel-efficient bikes, Honda came up with next path-breaking product that would bring scooters back to the style for a long time to come. The Activa. Activa took over Indian market like no two-wheeler had ever done. Almost every household in the country had an Activa and it is loved especially among women. Though the Royal Enfield has maintained its legacy, Hero Honda and Bajaj are the companies behind the widespread bike culture in India. For companies to raise money from public and invest in innovation and business expansion, we need stock markets. And India happens to have Asia's oldest and world's 10th largest stock exchange that was established in 1875 as Bombay Stock Exchange in Mumbai. It started the trend of stock investing in India. At that time, India had multitude of stock exchanges in early 1990s with thousands of listed stocks, most of which were listed on one or two exchanges, but majority of them were trading on BSE. In those days, trading involved picking up the phone and calling the broker who would give a quote. Also, due to lack of digitization, BSE had transparency issues. After Harshad Mehta scam in 1992, there was a pressing need for another stock exchange large enough to compete with BSE and bring transparency to the stock market. This gave birth to National Stock Exchange. It was incorporated in 1992, became recognized as Stock Exchange in 1993 and trading began in 1994. It was the first stock exchange on which trading took place electronically. NSE has helped many investors in safeguarding their shares and bonds, transferring them electronically by establishing National Securities Depository Limited or NSDL. Besides transparency, it also brought a high degree of ease in trading. It made it possible for the traders to even buy or sell a single bond or share. It reduced the bureaucratic limbo by eradicating the requirements of paper certificate that were the root cause of the fraudulent transactions in the stockbroking of the country. It offered greater level of security and brought down the prices of transactions and increased the efficiency of whole trading mechanism. NSE also encouraged the SMEs and startups in India to join the trading platform with NSE Emerge, an initiative that is focused on growing MSME IPOs in the countries. Today, majority of the stock trading happens on NSE. NSE, with its digital infrastructure, totally revolutionized the stock trading in India. So that's the video, guys. This is an experimental video I made to appreciate the Indian companies. Do let me know your feedback, based on which I can cover some more companies in the future videos. Share this video if you feel this is helpful, and thanks for watching. See you in the next one.